All right, there we go. Welcome back. It has been a long time since we've learned some Gemarah. I was away and I can't remember what else happened. But anyway, it's been, I think, 5 weeks since we had the last share, which is perhaps the longest gap that we've had for a while. But anyway, let's get back onto it. I don't suppose anybody remembers what the homework was from 5 weeks ago, do you?
Yes,
Go on then.
the
What was it?
homework was seeing how much Arabic is in the Gemarah's. Um, I can't get the exact connotation of it.
Yeah, not bad, Jackie, not bad. The homework, I had no idea, by the way, what it was. But of course, in order to prepare this year, I have to listen at least to the end of the last year to know where we're up to. So that's how I know. I can't pretend that I remembered. The homework was, without asking ChatGPT, which obviously you didn't because you didn't even remember what it was, what, which parts of Tanakh are written in Aramaic and not Hebrew.
The parts, the parts that were written in Babylon were written Aramaic because that was a country, and some parts of the Talmud in Jerusalem written in Aramaic, and some weren't.
Okay, that's a reasonable answer. A reasonable answer. Um, but you haven't answered the question exactly. Which books in Tanakh were
Oh,
written
sorry.
in Aramaic? You're right to a degree, Jackie, that the parts, some of the parts that refer to Babylon, um, were written in Aramaic, but not all of them. For example, Megillat Esther took place in Persia, didn't it?
Yeah.
And that's written in Hebrew. So it's not entirely correct what you said, but it was a fair go, and I'm impressed. Well done. Now, what's the answer to the question? Which books were written in Aramaic? Let's use Jackie's answer to start with. Which books, apart from Esther, which I've just told you, were written in Babylon? This,
Babylonian Talmud.
yeah, no, we're not talking about the Talmud. We're talking about Tanakh.
Ah,
Was Eicha written in Babylon?
No, Eicha was written in Jerusalem before or around the time of the destruction. They hadn't yet gone, or some of them had, but they hadn't had the destruction yet, or it was just about there. Um,
The
okay,
early books were written in one country and later books in the other.
well, if we go through Tanakh, I mean, this is a useful exercise just to demonstrate really how poor our knowledge of Jewish chronology, Jewish history, and the chronology of Jewish history is. Because I'm sure that you will all fall into the same category as me, and that is that your Jewish education pretty much stopped at the end of Sefer Devarim. We all know the 5 books of Moses pretty well. We all know the stories in there. We know the stories of the spies and the Korach and all the bits and bobs there that went on. We know all those stories, and we know the 40 years wandering in the Midbar. And we come to the end of Devarim, and Moshe dies, Yehoshua takes over, and really, pretty much after that, it's all a bit sketchy. We know that Yehoshua takes the people over the Jordan and into Israel and conquers Israel. But our Jewish education in our younger years pretty much stopped there. Am I right?
yeah.
Anybody disagree with that?
Well, the only thing we knew was Megillah Esther and Megillah Ruth because they were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they, yeah, correct, correct. So it's an indictment on our education system. If you go and talk to American women, particularly, you will find that their education was much, much deeper and longer in terms of longitudinal chronology, and they know Tanakh very well. Our education, when I say our, we are all on this call at the moment. Not everybody who's listening to the recording will fall into this category, but everybody on the Zoom today is from the UK. And so our UK education post Yehoshua, post Joshua, is very poor. And the fact that we did not know the answer to this question is a reflection of that. Because what happens in Tanakh, and we are correcting it on a Sunday morning very slowly, I grant you, but we are correcting it on a Sunday morning by learning Tanakh. What happens in Tanakh is Jewish history. It's exactly, we are living, those of us who are here now in Eretz Israel, and those of you who are not will end up here one way or another. And we are just the latest sort of link in the long chain that Tanakh began, because Joshua took us into the land. We then had the book of Shoftim, which was the judges and their various battles within the land of Israel. We then went on to Shmuel Aleph, the story of Shmuel and Eli, and then Shmuel Bet, which is Shaul and David, and then eventually we'll get on to Malachim, which are the kings, and we will go all the way through Jewish history. We're going to do a bit of Malachim Bet today, in fact, and we will see that what happens in Jewish history is that eventually we get kicked out of the land and we go to Babylon. And then in Tanakh, we have a couple of books which are written in Babylon, one of which is written in Aramaic. So had we had a decent education back in the day, we would all have known the answer to this question. I'm afraid it will take us decades, if not centuries, to get to the book that was written in Aramaic at our current rate. But I can tell you that the book of Daniel, is partly written in Aramaic. The first couple of chapters written in Hebrew, then the central core of it is written in Aramaic, and then it goes back to Hebrew later on. And the other book of Tanakh, where there are parts of it written in Aramaic, is a book which is very relevant to our Gemarah, and that is the book of Ezra. Yes. Ezra, you may know this. Again, if you'd learnt Tanakh properly, or if we had, I don't exclude myself from this. So when I say you, I include myself. If we had learnt Tanakh properly, we would know that Ezra was the prophet who brought the people back from Babylon, from exile, and began the construction of the second temple. And that was known as Shivat Zion, the return to Zion, which we all sing, don't we, on a regular basis in Shir HaMa'alot before benching on Shabbat and on Yom Tov. Shir HaMa'alot B'Shuv Hashem et Shivat Zion, the song of ascents. When Hashem returned, Shivat Zion, those who returned to Zion. Shivat Zion refers to the return from Babylon to Zion, to Yerushalayim, at the hands of Ezra and Nehemiah. Now, part of the book of Ezra is written in Aramaic because it refers to events and letters and things that were going on in Babylon. And they would have been said and sent, these letters and things, in Aramaic. So you have those two books, the book of Daniel and the book of Ezra, where there is sections of it in Aramaic. Now, why did I ask that question? Well, in order to know why I asked that question, we have to go to our Gemarah, where we're up to. And so I will put the Gemarah on the screen for you now and remind you what our subject is. Remember now that I've put that on the screen with our picture on the right-hand side, the Gemarah, how did we get into this discussion about language? Well, we got into the discussion about language because of our famous pasuk that we now have engraved on our hearts because we've been doing it for so long. and that is Parshat Hamelech. Okay, Parshat Hamelech, the parsha in Sefer Dvarim about what a king has to do. We've done the wives, we've done the horses, and we're in the middle of the Sefer Torah bit. Remember, verse 18 on here. By the way, has anybody seen Jeffrey? Not seen him for weeks.
He's away on a cruise. They
He's
went
in the
to
Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wondered where he'd gone. I thought maybe he was Broigus with me. Baruch Hashem, he's not Broigus with me. He's just away. Okay, that's good to know. All right, well, I'll do the reading for him. And it will be when he sits upon his royal throne that he shall write for himself 2 copies of the Torah on a scroll from the Torah which is before the Levitic Kohanim. That's why we're into this Gemarah, because the Gemarah is all about the king, what he's got to do. We did the wives, we did the horses, and we'll go back to the Gemarah now. There it is. And we started to talk about the Sefer Torah that the king has to write. And then we got into a little bit of a tangent as to what way the Sefer Torah was written. And we started to discuss this 2 different scripts, not the different language, different words, but the way the words were written. And we have these 2 scripts here on the side of the page. The right-hand column is what we're familiar with, and that is called Ktav Ashurit, and the Gemarah will tell us why it's called that in a minute. And the left-hand column, which we are less familiar with, is called Ktav Ivri, Hebrew script. It's all a bit confusing. And you will see in a minute at the end of, if you look at the page here that I've got for you, the very last word on the page over there, libona'ah, will help us out with this, because at the moment, the Gemarah is telling us that this is called Ashurit, and this is called... Oh, David, we've got feedback because you're on twice.
Sorry.
I think that's better. Yeah, great. Thank you.
No, I was having problems logging in on Zoom again, just like on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that was, but hopefully, well, we've got you now, which is great.
I had no problem.
Okay. Sorry to disturb you.
That's all right. Your jumper's disturbing me more than anything else, but never mind. I'll survive. Okay, so you've got your Ashurit script on the right here, and your Ivri script on the left. And so the question that the Gemarah was asking is, which script does the king have to write in? Because we know there are 2 scripts. And we'll just go over the little bit that we did last time. We started last time at our little symbol here with our little S symbol, which tells us that this is a new subject, or a slightly new subject anyway. Let's go from here and we'll see. You'll recognize, you'll remember some of this, and then we'll go on to new stuff. Ama Mar Zutra, the Itema Mar Ukva. Mar Zutra, and some say it was Mar Ukva, said as follows. Batechila, in the beginning, Nitna Torah liYisrael, the Torah was given to Israel, Bichtav Ivri, in the Hebrew script, the one on the left-hand side, what we would call ancient Hebrew script. That's what the Torah was given to Moshe in Ulashon HaKodesh, and it was given in the holy tongue, what we would call Hebrew. Chazra, it was given again from Choser, to go over, to repeat. Chazra, it was given a second time. V'nitna lahem bimei Ezra, it was given again in the days of Ezra, bichtav Ashurit, in this script, the Ashurit script, Ulashon Arami, and it was given in Aramaic. Wow, that's a big chidush, right? Not only did they change the script, they changed the language. However, Beiruru lahen Yisrael, an amazing expression here. we've got two scenarios. We've got the original Torah given in ancient Hebrew script in the Hebrew language. And then it's given again in a new script and in a new language, in Aramaic. And now look at the Gemarah, where it says something really interesting. Be'eruhu lahen liYisrael. Israel, the Jewish people, chose for themselves. They were the ones that chose what to do. And what did they choose? They chose Ktav Ashurit. They chose this script, Ulashon HaKodesh. So they actually did a mix and match. They took the script of Ezra and the Lashon of Moshe and put them together. And what have you got? You've got what we now know to be a Sefer Torah in Hebrew and in Ashurit script. So what's fascinating here about this Gemarah, to me it's fascinating anyway, is that this was a choice. They might have chose something different and we would have a completely and utterly different Sefer Torah. How fascinating is that? Because you will see in 1 second that there are a group of people who have a completely different Sefer Torah to us. Now, next bit of the Gemarah, Vehinichu lehedyotot, and they left to the simple people. Hedyot is a simple person, the ordinary people. Ktav Ivrit Ulashon Arami. They left the Aramaic language and the ancient Hebrew script to the ordinary folk. Right, now let's just stop there before we go on. You'll see in the next bit, the Gemarah asks the question, well, who are these ordinary folk? But we'll come to that in a moment. Now, what was the purpose of choosing a special script and a special language for holy writing and leaving Aramaic and the common script, the ancient script that they were used to, for the ordinary people? What was the purpose of that? Why do you think the Jewish people made the choice that they made?
Well, the vast majority of people spoke in the language of the day and wrote in the language of the day, not in the holy language.
Okay, and therefore?
Therefore, that was the most sensible thing for them to do. They wouldn't have understood the other one or had great difficulty understanding the other one. So they made it easier for them, like the Art Scroll does today with making studying much easier.
Okay, but that's the opposite, Michael, because they chose the script they were unfamiliar with and the language they were unfamiliar with.
Because
the exact opposite of what you said.
No, but the people there spoke Aramaic in those days, didn't they?
But what my question? Maybe you didn't understand my question. Maybe I didn't make it clear.
For the Kohanim, to make it, because the Kohanim were the holy people and they should use the holy language.
Right. Okay, we're getting there. But let me explain my question again, because maybe I didn't make it clear. The Jewish people chose to have their Torah in a script that they were unfamiliar with. Michael's right. And in a language that they were less familiar with. And they left the common script and the common language to the common people. So my question was, why did they choose to make it difficult for themselves,
because
as it were?
They didn't want any common people interfering in what was the written Torah, so it shouldn't be changed.
So I think you're all correct on this. And I think the reason is because they wanted it to be, I used the word special a few times just before. They wanted it to be special. What is special to us about a Sefer Torah? It's special to us because it's a special language in a special tongue. It's called Lashon HaKodesh. It's called the Holy Tongue. So they said that the holy things, the Torah, the Kohanim, again, as Julia is saying, the elitists the rabbis, they should have something special that sets it aside from the commoners, right? So if you're speaking Aramaic on a daily basis, what you want is your holy books to be special. So they deliberately chose to make it special by using a special script and a special language. And in fact, it was frowned upon. I won't say forbidden, but it was frowned upon in those days for people to speak Hebrew on the streets. And fast forward 2,000 years, one of the reasons why the Haredim stick with Yiddish or Ladino, if they come from that part of the world, and are reluctant to converse in modern Hebrew, is based on this Gemarah, because the Lashon HaKodesh should be reserved for Divrei Kedusha, for things of holiness. And it, in their eyes, demeans the language to speak it as an everyday language. Now, of course, I think most of us here would not agree with that. And most of us here would think that the fact that Yehuda ben Eliezer took a language which had not been spoken for 2,000 years and reignited it into a modern language is something miraculous, and is part of the miracle of the modern state of Israel. Now, of course, if you don't believe in the miracle of the modern state of Israel, you don't also believe in the miracle of reviving the language. So it all fits. But that is the reason why they continue to speak Yiddish and Ladino or whatever else, and are reluctant to bring in the Hebrew language, because it's meant to be special.
So
go on, David.
what language was spoken in Eretz Yisrael before the first Aliyah?
I imagine Arabic.
Wouldn't it have been Arab by the Oriental Jews?
By the well, before the first Aliyah, before Yehuda ben Eliezer ben Yehuda. I said it the wrong way around before. It's Eliezer ben Yehuda, not Yehuda ben Eliezer. Yeah, thought it didn't sound right. Before Eliezer ben Yehuda, I don't think there would have been much Lashon HaKodesh spoken, David. I would have thought they would have spoken.
There were Ashkenazi communities living in Eretz Yisrael,
but they would have been few and far between.
Agree.
And I think they would have probably spoken Yiddish or wherever they came from. The Oriental probably have spoken Turkish or Arabic or Egyptian or wherever they came from. There wasn't a modern Hebrew to speak. So I think the language on the street in the sort of, like we say, early 19th century and previous to that would probably have been Turkish, wouldn't it, in the Ottoman Empire? No?
What do we know about Aramaic? Who spoke Aramaic? Does anyone still speak Aramaic? What happened to it? Okay.
So Aramaic was the language of the streets. The Aramaic was the Yiddish of those times, back in Tanaic time, which is why the Gemarah is written in Aramaic. The vast majority of the Gemarah is Aramaic. That's why it's so blooming hard to learn. Apart from the fact that there's no punctuation, that makes it hard to learn. And
the fact that there are several dialects of Aramaic as well.
Yeah, like Yiddish, of course. There's several dialects of Yiddish. My grandfather, who I never met, who was a Romanischer, was very disdainful of Litvischer Yiddish, right? And the Litvaks were very disdainful of Palischer Yiddish. There was a very great snobbery around Yiddish. And I suspect there was probably the same with the Aramaic. I mean, it's the same in England, isn't it? Those of you who are from the south are all a bit disdainful of our accents up in the north, right? And the further north you go, the less received Queen's English it sounds like, right?
I understand them.
Exactly, yeah. So interesting. I had a compliment from one of the Israelis here in our community the other day. He says, I think when I go and live in England, I'm going to go and live in Manchester because you're the only person whose English I can understand. Yeah, so you're right. There were dialects, and it's hard. You know, we all learned to translate the Chumash when we were kids. So Hebrew is, it's there as kids were like sponges, which is why, I know I keep going on about this, which is why it's such a travesty that, we all didn't learn Ivrit when we were kids. Because had we done so, we'd have been able to speak Hebrew when we made Aliyah. Because when we were kids, that's when you learn it. I did my Ulpan when I was 17. I was still young enough then to be able to absorb it much, much easier than, when you're in your 50s and 60s. Even easier when you do it younger. So Aramaic was the language of the streets back in the day. Is there anybody that still speaks Aramaic? Possibly. We'll come to it in a moment in the Gemarah. But largely, no. It will have fallen into disuse after the time of the Gemarah. At the time of the Gemarah, it was clearly still in use. Gemarah was, 550, something like that, CE. And I imagine it will have fallen into disuse as the Arabic nations took over Eretz Yisrael and will have brought in the Arabic culture and language, and it will have fallen into disuse after that. That's a guess as to when it will have fallen into disuse. What we can say is it was still very much in use at the time of the Gemarah. Muhammad was around about 700, something like that. I think. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Muhammad was about 700. Gemarah is about 550. So I reckon that shortly after Muhammad's time, it will have fallen into disuse. Now, let's just go on in the Gemarah and we'll see there may be another
there
answer
is
to your
a
question.
fairly recent movie that was all in Aramaic.
Oh,
and I don't think there were even subtitles.
Wow.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. That's a very small audience, I would have thought, for that movie.
It attracted a very large audience because of the notoriety of the director.
Oh, I see. Okay. You're being too cryptic for me, David. Go on, give us a clue.
And it had a Jewish theme as well.
And it was in Aramaic.
Yes, the whole film, and it was about a 3-hour film that was totally in Aramaic.
With no
subtitles.
subtitles.
Very gory. I don't think there were subtitles.
What was the film called?
It was something to do with the passion of the Yoshki.
Oh.
It was the Mel Gibson film about the death of Jesus.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it was exceedingly anti-Semitic as well.
Remind me to give it a miss, David. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Aramaic.
You'd have been able to understand it with your knowledge of Aramaic, John.
Go on, Michael.
Yeah, I believe my eldest son did some Aramaic in his Hebrew studies at Oxford's.
Right. So that would make sense because that's an academic thing, and Aramaic, by the time we've got to now, is a bit like Latin, isn't it? Nobody speaks Latin anymore. It's limited to academic studies. I mean, I learned Latin at school. Anybody else learn Latin at school? Yeah. Can you say anything in Latin, Julia?
Yeah, that's about
it.
I'm a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I did
Me
half
too.
a lesson in Latin.
I got grade 1 in O level at Latin, I want you to know. But lot of good it did me, but there you go. Right, so let's carry on in the Gemarah because it's really interesting. Because the Gemarah then says, at bottom of the page here, man hedyotot. Are we still on the screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man hedyotot. Who are these commoners? These ordinary people who use this script, old-fashioned script, and use Aramaic. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says they are Kutites. They are the Kutim. Now, what is my next question?
Who would have cut him?
Who are the Kutim? Who would like to answer that question? Who were the Kutim? Who are the Kutim? Do they still exist?
Yes.
Okay, Julia, you seem to know about all of these things.
No,
Tell us
I
about
don't.
it.
I forget. But aren't they? They're a separate sect. Are they the ones that are literalists, or that don't accept the
Pharisees.
Torah? Yeah.
Yes, very good, Julia. They are. They have another name, and if you want to look in the translation over here, you can see there the Samaritans. Okay. Now I'm not talking about the helpline that you phone if you feel desperate. I'm talking about the Shomronim. That is another name for the Kutim. Who knows the story of the Shomronim? It's an important story. This.
What to do with when Shavuos is because the Pesach they only believe it on the first day, something like that.
Okay. That is that they did get involved in all of that. Yes, Leslie, that's right. There is an element. The Shomronim there was.
They take
a group
everything
of
very literally.
Yeah, a group of them were literalists, as somebody said there, Julia, I think. And they did try to mess up Shavuot for us. You're right. But who were they? Who are these people? Where did they come from? Anyone know? David, you know?
Yes, wasn't it to do with the northern tribes, the end of the northern kingdom, and the sect that remains?
Not quite.
And carried on practicing on the Hagarism.
Yes, all of that correct except for one word, and that is remained. Now, we're back on my.
I'm saying they remain till today up there.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant that they remained after the exile, because we will see again. My hobby horse. Had we known Tanakh properly, we would know all of this. Because look at this. We're going to take you now to Malachim Bet. There we go. Malachim Bet. I'm going to have to read all of this to you because this is a very important story. So just give me a moment to have a little snivel, and then I'm going to read the whole thing. Right. Now then, we are historically at a time after the death of King Solomon. What happened after the death of King Solomon? Split of the kingdom into the northern kingdom of Israel, the southern kingdom of Judah. Right, that's the background. In the 12th year of Achaz, the king of Judah, Hoshea, the son of Elah, reigned over Israel, that's the northern kingdom, for 9 years. And he did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord, though not like the kings of Israel who preceded him. Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, went up against him, and Hoshea became his vassal, and he paid him tribute. So the northern kingdom of Israel is now a vassal state of Assyria. What is the Hebrew word for Assyria? Ashur. Ashur. Ah, the penny has dropped. What is our new script called? Ashurit. So now you know where it came from. Right, let's carry on. So, and the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, that he sent messengers to So, the king of Egypt, and did not pay tribute to the king of Assyria as year by year. So Hoshea does the dirty on Assyria and tries to get involved with Egypt. Not a good idea. So the king of Assyria, verse 5, went up through the entire land, and he went to Shomron, to Samaria, and he besieged it for 3 years. Where is Samaria? What would our enemies call it?
Northern West Bank.
The West Bank. Yes, correct. We would call it the Shomron. Okay. There it is. Ooh. Shomron. Okay. See that word over there? Shomron. Oh, not working. Anyway, so what did he do? In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Shomron and exiled the Israelites to Assyria, and he repatriated them to Chala, Chavor, Nahar Gozan, the Gozan River, and the cities of Media. Now, I want to stop there. That is where the 10 tribes were exiled to. Somebody please remind me after the shiur to send you a link to a really, really good shiur, or to a section of shiurim that Danny Lee Moore and I did to get together right at the beginning of COVID about the 10 lost tribes, because it's all that the tracing of the 10 lost tribes is all based on that pasuk we've just done. You'll see if you listen to those shiurim. I recommend it to you if you've got nothing else better to do. Invest a couple of hours in these shiurim. They're really interesting about the exile of the 10 tribes. This pasuk tells us where they went to. So then what happened? They followed the statutes of the nations whom the Lord had driven out from before the children of Israel, and they erected monuments and asherim, and they were very, very, very bad. Okay, so they've all gone now, right? They've left. They've got kicked out. Where does it say that here? I've lost the place now. Here we go. Exiled the Israelites to Assyria. Right, so now you've got the whole of the Shomron, which is empty. Right, it's got no people in it. So what do you think the king of Ashur did? He brought some other folk from Ashur and resettled them in the Shomron. These were not Jews. They were not Israelites. These were Assyrians. That's why I took objection to when David said remained. I thought he said that there were a part of the 10 tribes that remained. These Shomronim, these Samaritans, were not Israelites who remained. The Israelites were all kicked out. But you can't have an empty place. And if you're going to put all these Israelites somewhere else, you're going to have a population problem. And of course, the idea of exiling was not just us. The Assyrians exiled these other people, wherever they came from, and exiled them to the Shomron. So basically, you did a population switch. So you've now got a whole bunch of people in the Shomron who are not Jews. So there's a machloket now between the Chazal as to whether these people converted to become Jews or not. And that has been a very contentious issue because there still exists to this day Shomronim. And as David mentioned, they have their own Bet Mikdash, not in Yerushalayim, but on Har Grizim. They also have their own Sefer Torah. Now, would you like to see a picture of a Sefer Torah of a Shomronim? I'm sure you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Mm.
Now, can you read that?
No,
No. Why can't you read it, Jackie?
I don't understand the language.
Because it's in the ancient Ivri script, right? Let's just have a quick look at our Gemarah. Look, see all these letters here? Let's see if we can identify any of these letters in our thingy. Well, look, this one over here, this third letter where my little cursor is now, looks like a modern day bet a bit.
Gimel.
No, it's a pay. It's a pay
Gimel.
fay.
Let's have a look at the Gemarah here. It looks a bit like this one, I think. It's a chaf, I think. Or maybe a nun. Let's have a look again. That looks like a pay, doesn't it? This one looks like a number 9. Let's see what we can pick out of that on a number 9.
Is a bet.
Where's the one that looks like a number 9? Yes, it's a bet. Well done. It's a bet. Yes. So if we had enough time and enough patience with our little chart that Rav Steinsaltz has produced for us, we could read that.
Would we understand it, though?
Well, it's a Torah. So,
There's a Torah written in Aramaic.
It's a Torah written in Ivri script. Whether it's Aramaic or not, I don't know because I can't read it. However, I could give you a piece of homework that you definitely wouldn't do, so there's no point. I could give you a homework to use Rav Steinsaltz's chart and work out for me what that
right to say for Torah in Ketav Ashurit.
I think I'll pass on that.
Where it's from. Well, listen, I've given you a clue on the screen. Look at the bottom. It tells you it's from Leviticus, right? So you don't have to go through the whole of the Torah. You only have to go through Sefer Vayikra to find it. This is part of Sefer Vayikra of a Samaritan Sefer Torah. And you can see it's in Ivri script. Now, is this not really fascinating? Is it just me? I mean, I know I'm a bit, I'm a bit obsessed with language. Language is something that really, really interests me. But this is something which I just find so brilliant that we learn a piece of Gemarah and a tiny little bit of it takes us all over the place to increasing our knowledge base. That is what a Samaritan Torah looks like.
It says
on,
in
Julia.
Rav Steinsaltz that the citizens reside in 2 locations, Mount Gerizim and Cholon. So Cholon's not far from here. Where
There
are
is
they in Cholon? Can we visit them?
Yes, you can. You can. There are a small group of Samaritans who still exist to this day. And they have their bases in Har Gerizim, which is where they have their temple, and in Cholon. They are 2 small communities. Now, I don't know if this is true or not because I haven't done the research, but my son Bobby tells me, and he told me this when he was in the army, that they were taught in the army that you can recognize the Shomronim by their physical characteristics, right? Now, that's not entirely unsurprising because I'm sure you do the same as me now and again. You'll be walking in the street and you'll see somebody coming towards you, and before you hear them speak, you know that they're Russian, right? Because they just look Russian, yeah? They've got that square Eastern European face, and a Chinese person is obviously a Chinese person. They've got certain characteristics. Now, Bobby tells me, and I don't think he was joking with me. I think he was telling me what he was told accurately, that the Shomronim, you recognize the Shomronim, the Samaritans, because they've got big ears.
Noddy.
So there you go, Noddy, yeah. So there you go. Apparently they have big ears. So there are still 2, you can go and visit them. They don't much like it because if you go and visit them, it sort of makes them out to be freaks. You're going to go and visit some kind of circus freak because they're this unusual. But they do have services. They do have their own Torah. They do have their own halachot.
Do they marry into? Do they prefer to marry into Jewish Israeli women?
No, they like to stick to themselves to keep themselves pure.
All right.
Because they don't want, they want to. They're a diminishing folk, I guess.
Is there Sefer Torah to all intents and purposes, apart from the script? Is it identical to the our Sefer Torah?
I don't know. I imagine it ought to be, if not identical, be very similar. But I don't know. I don't know. Now, I want to ask you this question. Our Gemarah doesn't say Shomronim, does it? It says Kutae, Kutim. Why are they called Kutim by the Gemarah and not Shomronim as Rav Steinsaltz translates it?
Is it where they originally came from?
Yes, excellent, Julia, excellent. The places that they came from was, one of the places they came from was Kuta. Where is Kuta? Anyone want to know, have a guess where Kuta is? Well,
India.
Think about it and have a guess. We are talking about a people that were brought into the Shomron from somewhere else after the Shomroni Jews had been exiled. So where would they have been brought from, do you think? Well, got to be somewhere in the Assyrian Empire, right? Where was the Assyrian Empire? Which countries did it encompass?
Persia.
No.
Yes, Persia, no, now known as Iran. Perhaps
Syria and Iraq.
Might be called Persia again soon, Bezrat Hashem. Iran, Iraq, yes, where else? Syria, part of Jordan. So these Shomronim would have come from somewhere around in that Assyrian Empire. That's where Kuta will be, somewhere in that Iran, Iraq, Gulf sort of area. Now, apparently, it is thought to be this place here called Tal Ibrahim, which is over here. Okay. You can see where Baghdad is. So it's on the border, basically, between modern day Iraq and Iran. That was where Kuta was. So if you think about it, what the Assyrians did was take the people from over here, where this map says West Bank, okay, from the Shomron, and take them all the way up here into Syria and beyond. And if you go and listen to that shiur that I told you about, that you're going to remind me to send you, you'll see the journey that they went on. And they brought these people a long way. Look how far they came. They came all the way back here and they stuck them in the Shomron. Right? That's why they're called Kutim, because they were from Kuta. Julia's not impressed. Why not, Julia?
I can't see why they're doing it. I mean, they're getting rid of troublemakers. But
yeah, that's exactly why. When you dislocate people
in the kingdom.
Now, when you dislocate people, you remove their power.
Oh.
You know, these new people that came in, you know, how did you feel the first time you came to Israel when you were a new Olah? Vulnerable, right? You don't know the system, you don't know the bureaucracy, you don't know the Bituach Leumi, you don't know the Kuppah.
They didn't have any of that then.
Right, but they wouldn't have known anything. They would have had some infrastructure in their own place. In Kuta, they were comfortable. When we were in England, we knew how to go to the post office. We knew how it worked, right? If you needed a new remote control for your telly, right, you went to a telly shop in England. You went to Curry's or somewhere like that, right? Where'd you go for a new remote control in Israel? You go to the post office, for goodness sake, right? And who would work that out, right? So when you come from Kuta and you go to the Shomron, you are very vulnerable. And that was the whole purpose of exile, was to take them from their familiar surroundings and make them weak and vulnerable. You can't leave a place empty. You've taken the Jews out because they were troublemakers. We've just read it in Malachim Bet. Hosea was misbehaving. The people were rebelling a bit against Assyria. They were going to join Assyria's enemies, which was Egypt. So they had to do something about it. They got rid of them. And now you've got an empty place. You can't have an empty place. So they brought some other people, and these were the Kutim. So they came from Kuta.
But the bigger question here is then why did they evolve into a pseudo-Jewish nation with a Torah and everything else?
Good question. Very good question. Because that's exactly what happens when a people go into another people. They assimilate. Why did so many American Jews become aligned with American culture and lost their Jewishness and become American? I use American only because it's more prevalent in America than anywhere else.
But that doesn't work here, because basically you said the Samaria was devoid of anybody. So where would they have picked it all up from then? If all the Jews were removed and they came in, there was no Jews left. So why would they develop a Torah or become pseudo-Jewish?
Because
there was nobody there to teach them.
Okay, let's just go over here. Right, let's go over here to Samaria. Okay, here's Samaria. Where is it closest? Where's the nearest closest place to Samaria where there's a culture? Judea. So they will inevitably get sucked into Judean culture. And that's what happened. They became pseudo-Jews, as you said. It's a very good expression. And there's a machloket between in Chazal, which I looked up earlier on with our good friend ChatGPT. See if I can find it now. Here we go. I think it was a bit earlier than that. Here we go. Kuta appears in 2 Kings 17:24 as one of the regions from which Assyria deported populations to the Shomron. Yeah, see, I didn't make it up. In Akkadian sources, the city is known as Kutu. It's a well-known Babylonian religious center. Okay, so the modern geography is over here. Tel Ibrahim, that's where I found that from. Okay, and then I never asked it this, but it told me anyway. The people called Kutim did not come from marginal backwater, but from a cultured, urban, religiously sophisticated civilization, deeply embedded in polytheistic worship. And this is Michael's question. This sharpens the Tanakh's critique. They adopted the forms of Israelite worship while retaining their original gods, a bit like modern Jews, right? We've kept our own God, but we've adopted Western gods as well.
Johnny, just go back to Melachim Bet, the payrek that you've read. Look at Pasuk Chaf Tet.
There we go. Now each nation made its god, and they placed it in the temple of high places that the people of Samaria had made, each nation in their cities wherein they were dwelling. So they had their own gods there. There's one pasuk.
No. The crucial thing is Asher Asu Hashomronim.
Right.
Places of idol worship, these Bamot, these temples, were places that the Shomronim had built before they were exiled. And we know the practice of Avodat Zarah throughout the land of Israel. Well, and worshipping at these Bamot that the Shomronim had made. So, in other words, they wanted the best of all worlds.
Yeah, which is not an uncommon scenario in history. If you look through Sefer Shoftim, that's what the Jews did the whole time. They had their Bamot and they served at what was it called? They served Baal and all those other things, as well as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And there was
they were hoping that one of them was correct.
It's too dissimilar today with the West. Western Jews are doing the same thing, not necessarily in religious ways. You know, we don't sort of say, "Oh, I think I'll be Jewish and Buddhist, or Jewish and Christian, or Jewish and Hindu or Muslim, whatever." But we are Jewish and Western, aren't we? So what's interesting, it's a good point that David's made here. They came in to this empty place, and there were ready-made temples for them. Well, they just said, "Okay, we'll have that." A bit like what's happening in the West. It's certainly happening in Manchester, and I suspect in London as well. The Muslims have come in and disused synagogues and made them into their holy places. We did the same thing with disused churches a generation or two ago. I can certainly name you a good number of shuls in Manchester where the building was originally a church.
Isn't that problematic?
Yes, it can be. And the frummer of the shuls will only use the church hall and not the church itself. They use it the other way around. They make the church hall into the shul and the church itself into the simcha hall. For that reason. Yes, you're quite right. Okay, we're nearly up in time. Gosh, doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? Let's go back to the Gemarah.
Just have a look at Pasuk Lamed Gimel, Lamed Bet and Lamed Gimel as well.
Ah, yes, this is the pasuk I was looking for. Thank you. Yes, this is the pasuk I'm looking for. 33. They feared Hashem, yet they worshipped their own gods, as was the custom of the nations whom they had exiled from there. We were all at it. Yeah. And of course, what is our, as proper Jews, what is our national anthem? I don't mean the Israeli national anthem. I mean the Jewish national anthem.
Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem
Echad.
Echad. The oneness. What did it ever occur to you why over the millennia this unity of God is being stressed so much and, shoved down our throats at all points? All right, I've got it. God is one. But we didn't get it. Over history, we didn't get it, right? God wasn't one. That verse 33 is exactly what was going on throughout the entirety of Jewish history. We have not treated God with exclusivity. And there is so much of our tefillot, those of you who've been following the tefillah shiurim will know that there's so much of our tefillot which stress this unity of God because of this tendency that we have had over generations. And we seem to think, we're immune from it now. Yeah, God is one. We're not. We have our different types of gods. Is money our God? Is power our God? Is pleasure our God? Or whatever. It's a very interesting concept. This verse 33 is a very interesting concept, and that is why Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is the Jewish national anthem. And I make no criticism about the Hatikvah. It's a completely different, a different thing altogether. All right, let's just have a look at the Gemarah before we finish and see where we're up to. Let's go back to it. Where is it? There it is. So let's just finish this bit because I promised you this last word. So who are these Hedyotot? Who are these simple people? The Kutites, the Samaritans. Umay Ktav Ivrit. And what is this Hebrew, this ancient Hebrew script? Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says it is Ktav Libona'ah. It is Libona'ah script. Now, there's a little B there, which means that Rav Steinsaltz has got something to say about it. Let's find it. Here we go. Libona'ah is the ancient Hebrew or Ivru script still used today by the Samaritans. The origin of the name Libona'ah is unclear. Okay, well, that's all it's going to tell us. That's a bit disappointing. All right, it's unclear. Now, what does it sound like to you? What might the root be?
Lebanon.
What did you say?
Owner.
Again?
Lave.
All right, lave. Yeah, what about the nun? Lamed bet nun. What's that?
Laban.
Lavan, which means? What's Lavan?
Lebanon, isn't it?
That's Lebanon. All right, I'll give you a clue. Kachol v'lavan. White. Yes. Lavan means white. Okay. Kachol v'lavan, blue and white. Yeah. Israeli flag, kachol v'lavan. So lavan means white, right? I can see that you don't do the shopping in the for flour, because you would be looking for kemach lavan, white flour, or kemach malay, wholemeal flour. Anyway, lavan means white. So there's a suggestion that it comes from this word white. Something that is white is clear and easy to see. So it's a suggestion. It's a bit of a weak suggestion, but it's better than Rav Steinsaltz, who just says, I don't know. There's a suggestion that it's from the word lavan, because it was a clear script that they were used to, and they could read it clearly, you know, as clear as daylight, if you like. I don't know. But I like that it's called Libona'ah, only because I don't like that it's called Ivri, Hebrew, because it's confusing. Because if I was to say to anybody today, what is Hebrew script? What is Ivri? They would show me this one, Ashurit, wouldn't they? And the fact that this is called Ivri is confusing in the same way as the northern kingdom being called Israel is confusing. They didn't ask me in 1948 when they declared the state of Israel. I wouldn't have called it Israel. I'd have called it Judea. Because we are, all of us, we are all, except for the B'nai Menashe who've come later and the Ethiopians who've come later. In 1948, the vast majority of us were from the kingdom of Yehudah, the tribes of Yehudah, Binyamin, bit of Levi, bit of Shimon maybe in there. But we weren't from the northern kingdom in Israel. Why not? Because they got exiled. We've just read it. We don't know where they are. We're starting to know where they are. So if they'd asked me in 1948, I would have said, we should have called this country Judea. Yehudah, I would have called it Yehudah. Go on, David.
Right. On Libonah, Art Scroll Note 52.
Art Scroll Note 52. A large script, such as found in, oh yes, I remember this, in amulets and mezuzot, says Rashi. To be sure, this is not merely a larger version of the Ashuri script, but the normal writing of the ancient Hebrew script, in which certain letters were very large. Well, let's have a look at our picture of that Torah again. Some of those things large, I suppose you could say that. Amulets were often written in this script, and mezuzot often contained holy names written in this script on the outer part of the mezuzah, of which the rest of the mezuzah was written in the Ashuri script. Doesn't say this here, which, by the way, the Rambam was apoplectically against writing amulets and writing stuff on mezuzot. He considers it to be absolute avodah zarah and forbidden totally.
He
really
was against superstition.
Absolutely, he was. He was a rationalist par excellence.
Could it be,
Okay.
Johnny, could it be that these people wrote their script, wrote their Torah on absolutely white parchment? Has to be pure white.
Could be, if they could get it pure white. But yeah, maybe. It's as good an explanation as any we've got, Jackie. Rav Steinsaltz just says he doesn't know. So no one here to say you're wrong, Jackie, on that. Anyway, that's where we've got to. I think it was really, really interesting stuff.
It was.
And next time, please God, we will continue and I'll just give you a little taster of what we're going to say. We're going to sort of ask the question, what on earth was Ezra thinking when he changed the script of a Sefer Torah? What would happen if I came along now and said, you know what? I think we should have a brand new script and we'll rewrite all the Sifrei Torah in Lieberman script.
More chance of getting a sanhedrin.
Yeah, exactly. More chance of, more chance of flying to the moon on your own without a rocket. Just wouldn't happen. What was Ezra thinking? First of all, why did he do it? And secondly, how did he pull it off?
Who allowed him?
And that is what we're going to be discussing, sort of, next time. If you don't want a spoiler, Michael, I know you don't like spoilers, then don't read on. Otherwise, Be'ezrat Hashem, we shall be here next week. And look how learning is so powerful, because I feel much better than I did an hour ago, right? I've really enjoyed that hour, and I feel much better. And I've no doubt that as soon as I go off here, I'm going to be sniveling all over again.
At the bottom of Rav Steinsaltz, underneath the alphabet, he's got a picture of a street sign that says Ben Amram Street, and it's written in Hebrew and in the ancient script.
It is, yes.
And I actually just looked up, there is a Ben Amram Street in Cologne, so I was wondering if it was the signpost in Cologne.
Maybe. It may well be.
I might go and have a look.
There's probably a Rehov Ben Amram everywhere, but you're right. The chances are that is in because that's actually not a street sign, is it? It's a house sign. It's number 16.
Yes.
So I would suggest that you are right, Julia, that a Shomroni lives at 16 Rehov Ben Amram.
Yeah, amazing. You're right. It's been a fantastically interesting hour.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, we will see you all next week, please God.
Thank you.